If you're a fan of comic books and want to grow your collection without spending too much money, then you've come to the right place. In this video, we've compiled a list of 10 epic comic books that can all be purchased for $50 or under. From superhero classics to indie gems, we've got something for everybody on this list. So sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and let's get ready to add some exciting new issues to your collection without putting a dent into your wallet. Let's kick off the list with something amazingly weird from the 90s here in the number 10 spot. Duckman number 1. Published by Dark Horse in September 1990, Duckman number 1 is a one-shot comic that was written and drawn by Everett Peck. Duckman debuted in Dark Horse Presents 22, 2 years prior to the release of the Duckman one-shot, and the character would go on to star in his own TV show on the USA Network for 4 seasons from 1994 to 1997. A short-lived Duckman series was published by Topps Comics beginning in 1994. So if you're into 90s nostalgia, particularly when it comes to animated series like Beavis and Butthead, Daria, Ren and Stimpy, and the like, then Duckman is right up your alley. Recent sales put the value of this one between $40 and $50, but you may have to wait this one out as the current crop of listings on eBay are priced like it's 2021. Speaking of 2021, let's have a moment of silence for our number 9 book, West Coast Avengers number 45, the first appearance of the White Vision. Think back to the days where we were all still quarantined, stuck at home with nothing to do but buy comics on the internet. And let's be honest, we went off the rails. 16 people paid more than $1,000 for a CGC 9.8 copy of this book that year, when the highest sale for a CGC 8.0 copy of Avengers 57, the actual first appearance of the Vision, topped out at just $920 for that same year. So if you're feeling a little down about the value drop in some of your purchases, just remember that somebody paid $1,950 for a CGC 9.8 copy of West Coast Avengers number 45 back in 2021. And year to date, a copy in grade hasn't sold for more than $412. Raw copies are currently averaging out right around $40 for a book that was well above $150 within recent memory. So if you were priced out on this one back in the day, I think you'll be happy with what you find today. Okay, I'm going to be straight with you. I 100% missed out on manga and I have no idea about it. But what I do know is that I see convention guest lists that are loaded down with voice actors from the show based on our number 8 book, Free Comic Book Day 2016's One Punch Man and My Hero Academia number 1. This is the first standard comic book appearance of My Hero Academia. Originally appearing in the July 14, 2014 issue of the Japanese magazine Shogun Jump Weekly, but by the spring of 2016, just about a month prior to this FCBD 2016 issue's release, the anime show debuted in Japan, and it would eventually make its way to the US via Adult Swim beginning in May 2018. Also appearing for the first time in this issue is One Punch Man, another manga character that grew bored with being a superhero due to his ability to defeat his enemies with a single punch. Both properties are said to be in development for live-action projects, which is helping to boost the formerly free comic book to a current value of right at $50. So if manga is your thing, keep your eyes peeled for a copy of this one. Saturday Morning has officially invaded my comic collection, and one of the first books that set me down this path comes in at number 7, Silverhawks number 1. Published by Marvel in August 1987 under the Star Comics imprint, Silverhawks number 1 was written by Steve Perry and drawn by Mike Witherby. Making their first appearances in this issue are the Silverhawks team, including Steel Will, Bluegrass, Steelheart, Quicksilver, Commander Stargazer, and the Copper Kid, along with baddies Monstar and Hardware. The Silverhawks cartoon debuted in 1986 from Rankin Bass Productions and was the middle child in their trifecta of nearly identical TV shows, Thundercats, Silverhawks, and Tiger Sharks. Kenner's Silverhawks action figure line was also a banger, which makes me realize how effective the marketing to kids was in the 1980s. Watch the cartoon, buy the toys, buy the comics, consume. Anyway, as per usual these days, prices are trending down for this issue, which can generally be found for right at our $50 budget. DC's Vertigo imprint has long been a treasure trove of fantastic comic book stories, and recent media projects from the imprint include Lucifer, Sandman, and Preacher. Our number 6 book, Transmetropolitan number 1, actually started out under the short-lived Helix label, but it found its forever home when it transitioned to Vertigo when Helix folded following the release of the 12th issue of this series. Transmet was the only Helix series that survived the chopping block. Transmetropolitan number 1 was published in September 1997 and features the first appearance of the series' protagonist, Spider Jerusalem. Jeff Darrow was the cover artist, while Derek Robertson drew the interior art for this Warren Ellis story. If you're wondering what kind of street cred Transmet has, Sir Patrick Stewart is a huge fan of Spider Jerusalem and the series as a whole. In fact, he was tapped to write the introduction for one of the series' collected editions. Exploring themes of power, corruption, and the role of media in society, Transmetropolitan is a must-read. Currently, you can pick up a raw copy of Transmetropolitan number 1 for right at $50. A good comic book villain can be menacing, weird, or frightening. And sometimes they can be all of the above. That's what we find in the number 5 spot with Champions number 14, the first appearance of Swarm. Published in July 1977, Champions 14 had a rock star creative team. The cover was drawn by Gil Kane, the interior art was from John Byrne, who also helped out on the story with Bill Mantlo. Swarm is pretty much low-grade nightmare fuel. After evading capture and fleeing Germany at the end of World War II, Fritz von Meyer set up shop in South America and worked as a beekeeper. And after an unfortunate run-in with a mutated colony of bees, he winds up being basically nothing but a skeleton. But if that wasn't bad enough, his consciousness winds up being absorbed by the bees, and they merge into this weird hybrid being known as Swarm. So now that his consciousness is in the bees, he can use them to form a body around his skeleton, and then he's off to battle the champions. So Swarm would go on to become a recurring Spider-Man villain, and while he never really rose to the level of a Doc Ock or a Green Goblin or somebody like that, Swarm was definitely an interesting addition to the Rogues Gallery. Raw copies are currently selling for just under our $50 budget, which makes Champions 14 a rather affordable first appearance of a memorable Spidey villain. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 62 is the final issue of the original TMNT series from Mirage Comics. Published in August 1993, A.C. Farley provided the cover art, while the interior story and art were tackled by series creators Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, with an assist from Mirage's first employee, Jim Lawson. Wrapping up the 13-part City at War arc, in addition to the first series, TMNT 62 would be the last mainline TMNT issue until the 1996 series was released from Image Comics. While prices for the more valuable key issues have been dropping, the increase in values for the run filler issues of the first volume of TMNT have remained fairly steady as collectors have started to set their sights on completing the run of this series. Last issues tend to be a bit tougher to come by, which is what has helped boost the value of TMNT number 62 up to the $50 price point. Soaring into the number 3 spot is X Factor number 24. This book has been caught up in the contested first appearance argument that, as comic collectors, we love to have. The first appearance in question is that of Archangel, now reborn as a Horseman of the Apocalypse. Interestingly enough, this one seems pretty cut and dry, as the character made multiple cameos and had a lengthy appearance in X Factor 23. But despite all that, the hobby considered this January 1988 issue the character's first appearance for many years. First appearance or not, the market has chosen this issue as the most desirable of these early Archangel, or Death as he was known, appearances. Currently selling in the neighborhood of $30 to $40 for a raw copy, X Factor 24 is a Simonson family production with a story provided by Louise and cover and interior art from Walt. What we can agree on is that this is the first cover appearance of Archangel, and it's a good one. Our runner-up is Batman 655. Interest in Damian Wayne has kicked up a notch following the DC slate reveal, so let's talk about it. Batman 655 is the first cameo appearance of Damian, but it was previously considered his first appearance. Published in September of 2006, the story was written by Grant Morrison, and Andy Kubert handled both the cover and interior art. The upcoming DCU project titled The Brave and the Bold is expected to focus on the father and son duo of Batman and Robin. Damian, as the son of Bruce Wayne's Batman and Talia al Ghul, is not only the heir apparent for the Batman mantle, he's also a trained assassin as he was raised within the League of Assassins. Batman 655 is holding the line at the $50 price point, and it was recently joined by Batman 656, which is now considered to be the first full appearance of Damian Wayne. If you're a Batman or a DC fan, hopefully this one's already in your collection. But if not, it's a good one to keep an eye out for, especially in those shopping places where the sellers maybe aren't very knowledgeable about modern books. Topping the spring 2023 top 10 comics for a $50 budget list is a book that features the first face-off of one of the 80s biggest rivalries in Amazing Spider-Man 239. Published in April 1983, ASM 239 brings us the first battle between our hero, the Amazing Spider-Man, and the Hobgoblin, who would become one of the dominant Spider-Man villains of the 1980s. Debuting in the previous issue, the Hobgoblin brought some edge back to the Goblins, as Harry Osborn's Green Goblin really lacked the menacing presence of his father's Green Goblin from the Silver Age. John Romita Jr. provided the cover and interior art for this issue, and this is in his early style, which was pretty reminiscent of his father's style from the Silver Age that ultimately became the Marvel House style. But by the end of the decade, JR would find his own signature style through a series of collaborative efforts with Klaus Janson, and ultimately he would lose his ability to draw a curved line. Like most of the original Hobgoblin stories, ASM 239 was written by Roger Stern. Currently, a high-grade raw copy of this one will only set you back in the neighborhood of $40, but with a little bit of patience, you can very likely pick one up for even cheaper than that. After a couple of years in a strong seller's market, as a collector, it's great to see the return of a buyer's market. eBay auctions are churning out great buying opportunities, and the best offer button continues to be a really valuable tool for the budget-minded collector. With convention season winding back up, keep an eye out for smaller comic shows in your area. In my experience, you generally come out ahead at these smaller events. Pricing is generally better, entry fees are much lower, and while you may not have the selection you'll find at a major show, the best part of these smaller shows is that you truly never know what will walk into the room each and every time. The way I approach it is that I rarely get my hopes up, but I also never let my guard down. You will certainly experience some strikeouts, but those are easy to forget once you hit the occasional home run. Collect responsibly, and I'll see you in the next video.